All right, Next Level Podcast listeners and viewers, we are back, and this week I'm joined by my buddy Joe Bell up in Alaska. Joe, how's it going, brother?
Going real well. How about you?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm so glad we finally got the chance to get this recorded, get this on our schedule, because we've been kind of going back and forth for some time now around just catching up and with what's going on, both in our personal lives, but also in business, because you and I tend to have a lot of discussions around real estate and what's going on there. So I'm so stoked for this conversation.
Yeah, man, you're like one of my favorite keyboard rangers, right? When I get all fired up, I'm like, oh, Kevin will be stoked on this, and we'll go back. And so, yeah, it's great to be able to connect via the computer. But I'm not the busy one, man. You're the busy one. Getting on your schedule is the challenge. I'm over here chilling in the resort town like, hey, whenever you want, let's get together.
You're just going, hey, is there enough snow today? Could I ride today? Is probably what you're thinking every day. No, no doubt about it. Times are crazy, and only having so much time to set up for the podcast definitely can limit that. But I'm seriously glad we got a chance to do this today. So, dude, why don't we start here? Like, I remember when I first met you, man, you're just this dude strolling through my office. I don't know, 5 years ago. And I'm like, who's this guy? And Jacob, our mutual friend's like, oh, you got to meet Joe. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to meet Joe. So that's my first, I remember when I first met you and we got the chance to talk, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's cool. Now I see why Jacob likes him. I see why Cody likes him. But why don't you tell us, like, who's Joe Bell, man? Like, how long you been in real estate? Tell us a little bit about your real estate career.
It's kind of a loaded statement, right? For a long time, I thought they just kept me around for the pretty face, but then they ended up realizing that the face wasn't all there was. So yeah, here's the one thing. You mentioned me just kind of strolling through your office down in Arizona. And that's been a lot of my career. Like, I've been super stoked on real estate. I think it's such an amazing industry. It offers, a really unique vehicle to get you from where you are to where you want to go with one conversation, right? Because you can be struggling, have your lead generation sources all dried up, and it takes one conversation. You run into, somebody that wants to buy a property for $2 million, and boom, you've got a $50,000 commission. It can change your life. But there's also a double-edged sword to that, right? Because then you start relying on that piece of it. I won't get too far into that, because you asked me who I am. So I'm from Alaska. I'm born and raised up here. Shortly after the time that we connected, I moved into the CEO role with the Keller Williams brokerage up here. At that time, they were doing roughly around $1 billion in production per year, like just massive
office. Like, I've met so many people that have come out of that office, like, what a massive office, despite Cody's best efforts to make it terrible. Like, he had such a great group of people. I think it's because Toomer came in and cleaned up after him and really made it so awesome. But seriously, like, I've got so many good friends that have come out of your office there, and like, that's a classic brokerage right there that is just cleaned up.
Totally. Yeah, no, Cody made a big mess. Mom came in, cleaned it up. And then she's like, here, Joe, so I had these massive shoes to fill, stepping in after those two. So I got that experience. And, really through that experience, I started to look at the industry a little bit different in regards to how we're setting ourselves up for the future. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. But, that was, let's see, I think I was in year 11 in the industry by that time. Had gone from, this punk 26-year-old coming in as the market was just, which was good because it made me earn my stripes, and I was still around after 3 years of that, and things started going up. Built the team from 6 million to 35 million, and everything was really, really good. And then quite frankly, I don't know if many folks say this, but I got bored. I got bored with success. That's so dumb to say. I got bored of making the money that we were making because it was simple, right? Because here's leads, here's the activities, here's what you can make. And I'm very entrepreneurial, so I like to throw monkey wrenches in the mix and screw everything up and rebuild it or rebuild something new. It's just really fun for me to dig in and look at different aspects of the business. So while we had a lot of success, you know, beyond that, it was, well, what's different? And I look for, you know, some of the vibrations in the market or in the industries that I can go and capitalize on. So I jumped over into flipping homes, and we started in 14 doing that. And we've had a lot of success. We typically have about 1.5 to 2 million wrapped up, you know, on the investment side of things. And now we're getting into development, and we're going to do a new build construction. So the evolution in real estate has been amazing because I've been willing to kind of step out there. It always hasn't been super positive, but the majority of my success has come from stepping outside the box and kind of being uncomfortable and seeing what it's like over there, you know. So it's an ebb and flow when it comes to you know, the industry and where my involvement is. So, you know, here today we have a brokerage. It's a very small brokerage. It's focused on member-driven investments. So we utilize commissions that a licensee would typically pay, and we go and invest those dollars on their behalf to earn a return. And so we're building an investment vehicle for the future for them, right alongside their real estate business, which
That's
is
awesome.
super unique, right? Well, again, you and I, we banter back and forth about this iBuyer and evolution in the industry. And, you know, one thing that I don't want to happen is anyone that I'm surrounded by around, I don't want them to have the rug pulled out from underneath them. And so, you know, you look at like what EXP and KW has done to the market with the profit share, the rev share. Well, if for whatever reason transactions were to soak up a little bit and there just weren't as much, like all the recruiting efforts would start to dry up. And that's just perception, right? That's my own thing. Because if there's less transactions, there's less recruiting dollars to pay out. And so I want to focus on how we insulate ourselves if something like that was to happen. Heaven forbid, right? But
well, I think, I mean, if anything, if we've learned anything from history, it's that things do go, like, it's cyclical, right? It's not always just going to go up. It's going to go down. It's going to go up. It almost never stays the same. When it does, it's for a short period of time. And so, yeah, like the reality is there's a lot of realtors today. There's a whole lot. There's a lot of transactions. I remember I got licensed in 07, and I remember in 08 and 09 too, like the number of transactions, even here in the Phoenix market, where there's a lot of deals that happen in Phoenix, right?
Yep.
And then there was, like, I remember the first time I remembered as a licensee hitting like 7,000 or 8,000 transactions in a month, like for the whole market. Whereas like that was like it was a milestone then to me in my career, because I had only been in this downturn. And now it's like, that's a super slow month for Phoenix.
Yeah. How much did you get? 9 or 10,000?
Yeah. It's like 9,000, usually 9,000 a month. Like it's a lot. And so, you know, yes, it's cycles, it's cyclical. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. There'll be fewer licensees. There'll be times when there's more licensees. I think part of what you and I have talked about too is the fact of, okay, now we finally, for the first time really in the history of real estate, we have this collision course of technology coming in, consumer behavior driving that, and expectations are starting to change because of it. And so not only do we have we had this massive run up now for a long time, you know, prices have just gone up. The number of NAR members have just gone up. Yep. And eventually now it's on this collision course with technology and consumer behavior changing. So what's going to happen? Granted, you and I don't know. We don't have crystal balls, but something likely could happen where it looks negative compared to where it is today. And really that's just an opportunity. However, what struck me about what you're talking about and some of the things we've talked about is it doesn't have to be negative, right? There are opportunities for us to insulate ourselves from the future, or not even just from a change, but maybe just a change in our own behavior and what we want to do.
Right. Well, that's a really good point. You know, I mentioned, and I'm sorry if you're hearing all these dings coming through. I've got I'm on some damn group text and I don't know how to disconnect it from my computer. So if you're tech forward and you tell me.
We're good. It's fairly quiet, so we're okay.
Okay, solid. So yeah, you bring up a really good point. There's so many folks that, that '06 to '09 came in, earned their stripes, went on to do amazing things, right? Like you and Fred were the short sell guys, and there's so many people in our market that came in around that time and went on to build either amazing individual businesses and still have those to this day. Big teams, have gone on to become big, speakers and bold coaches and all kinds of different stuff. And I think you kind of reach the end of the runway for certain roles. And as a licensee, for some of us, I think we just get tired of, well, I've got to go meet these sellers at their kitchen table tonight. It just wasn't enough. It was great money, right? But that old adage about it's not all about the money, like it just wasn't. I was more excited about, developing an evolution within the industry and how do we really impact the future versus going to another seller's table because I want to go get another $8,000 commission. So there's opportunity in this industry, and I think you and I just came upon it at the right time to kind of see this team thing. It's been a really awesome run in that regard. And now it's like, okay, what's next? You've got this iBuyer. Actually, I'm just going to stop saying that. You've got this cash infusion into the industry.
Right.
You've got, right? I mean, anymore, we've got to make a cash offer because that gives us the better chance of getting the property. And then we'll come in and we'll refinance it in the back. There's Fly Homes out in Washington that's doing that. You're starting to see some of those movements within KW, which is a massive, ship to steer. And I just think we're going to see the cash piece come in such a major way. Add that with the big entities. You guys have Wander Jaunt, I think, down there in Phoenix and Austin, and their goal is like 4 to 8 million in acquisition per month to present an Airbnb-esque model. And you're starting to see that with some of these companies, some of the hotels, some of these corporations. They're all sinking in on the industry to grab their piece, which again goes back to where are the transactions going to be? If the market takes a dump, are they going to continue purchasing? Remains to be seen, but it could be a good time for equity grab, right? And so we just don't know. And it would be super cool where you've got the millennials and all the young folks that are like, oh, I'm going to go chase my wanderlust and I'm not going to buy a car, buy a house, buy anything. So you and I here being a little bit older mindset of investment driven, we can go and we can start to mop up some inventory and it could be really, really beneficial for us. But I think that's what the big corporations are also starting to do. And they've got the dollars to play in a different way.
Yeah. And I think one of the big opportunities that we have as agents seeing what's going on in our industry is, okay, so you said iBuyers. Let's just talk about them for a second. Zillow,
Yeah.
Open Door, OfferPad. We call them Zoo here in Phoenix, right? And there's others. But the Zoo, Zillow, Open Door, OfferPad, like they're not going to buy every single thing, say in Phoenix or in Denver or Dallas or whatever the other 30 cities they're in or 50 cities that they end up in. They're not going to buy everything. But so what that does is that creates, number one, it creates another opportunity for me to still exist as a realtor because they're not going to be they're not going to control 100% of the inventory. But number two, what I think this is going to do is as we start to compress as an industry, right, there's not always going to be 1.2 million realtors. Like there's not. I don't know if that number is 500,000, 700,000. I don't know what that number is, say 5 years from now, but I believe it's less and I would bet on that. So what I think is, okay, we will have fewer competition, which is good because there's going to be probably fewer deals that we're allowed to transact as an agent and maybe less money per deal. We can kind of go there here in a little bit too. But so then I go, okay, like how else can I make money, right? So what are the other ways I can have income? Maybe it's the investment piece, maybe it's bringing a property management type of company in house, some other
Mhm.
sort of service to my already service-based business. Like, what can I add to it so that way I don't have to worry about sitting in a living room next week, next month, next hour in order to make my next check, right?
Right.
Because so many of us as realtors, of the 1.2 million realtors, the average income is like $39,000 or $42,000 over the last 2 or 3 years per NAR.
Right.
That's not exactly killing it, and that means there's not a lot of leeway to like make ends meet for most realtors.
Right.
So how do we combat, like, what do we do? Like, so I guess that's my question for you, Joe. Tactically, I want you to, okay, so I'm just your buddy, Kevin. I sell real estate, and
Yeah.
you're worried about me now because you're going, dude, you're just going from deal to deal. What do I do, man?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And the population out there that's asking that in this industry, if they're not, they should be, right?
Yep.
Um, so it presents a really cool opportunity, I think. Again, I kind of touched on the investment side. The challenge that I run into is, I would venture to guess that 95% of the agent population, licensee population, probably can't retire on their own means, right?
Right.
You've got some of the big teams. I mean, you've got to be pumping 250 to 300 per year gross to probably be in a comfortable position with a little bit of discipline to actually go and invest those dollars, right? But what are you going to do? You're going to go invest in a fourplex for $400,000 or $500,000. You've got to put 100 down, right? Unless you live in the dang thing. Who wants to live in a fourplex? I guess there are times where you have to, but so you're going to go put $100,000 down, and you're going to make $1,500 a month. Like, it doesn't equate to truly being able to capitalize immediately, which is what most folks are looking for, is cash flow, right? End of the day, cash flow. So the question is, how to create systems of cash flow moving forward. We've got a business that we can utilize, and either we go even more all in on that if we're not there yet, or that just becomes a nice leverage stream of income. Okay. So folks that have teams, that's a really cool perk, right? We need to, if our business isn't there and it's not really creating a cash flow beyond $39,000, well, maybe we need to right here, right now, dig in and go do the activities to build that thing out a little bit, right? Go blow up a sphere, add 1,000 people, 2,500 people, to then create the numbers that are going to earn you more dollars, just purely based on averages, right? Because that'll probably generate you another $30,000 to $40,000 if you can go do it. There's a couple of real specific strategic plays that you can do, especially with social media. Go find some homeowners. They're going to really need us here shortly. But ultimately, it comes back to cash flow. So from there, I start moving over in the direction of investments. And I think it might have been Next Level. I saw a post where it's like, hey, if I had $100,000, where would you tell me to go spend that if I wanted to turn $100,000 into $1 million? Right. So before I go down my tangent, right, did you have any thoughts on that specifically? Like,
yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on this subject, because there is a little bit of this, hey, okay, for example, like, I'm an established agent, you're an established agent. We've got a book of business we can go back to. Could we go more all in on it? Yes. Could we squeeze, call it another $4,000, $5,000 a month out of it with a certain amount of effort? Absolutely. And then the question I ask is, okay, but if I'm making enough money to live and reach my financial goals, and I still have more bandwidth, what do I do? Should I say, hey, you know what? I need a week, or an hour a week or 10 hours a month to look at how much, to look for deals, to basically look for these investments or look for the opportunities that are going to bring me cash flow above and beyond where I currently live. That way, in case my real estate business dries up, goes away, gets cut in half, whatever that looks like, I still have an income and I have a soft landing, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
how, like what, like, so I guess my first question to you is, what questions should I be asking? Like, I'm that agent right now, Joe, like
yeah.
what questions should I be asking, or what should I be doing to start to set myself up for that better?
Yeah. So what I've seen in a lot of conversations with folks that have been in 15, 20 years, right, and they don't have much to fall back on is more a challenge of discipline, right? You get into the real estate roller coaster, you spend it when you got it, you don't when you don't, right?
Right.
And so the majority of them don't have more than 10 to 20,000 bucks to really be investing with. So that creates the challenge. And even if they did, again, 100,000 bucks equating to 50, even 1,500. I mean, I'm being a little, I'm giving, right, in that number, if you're lucky, if it's that high. But 1,500 isn't going to give you any sort of soft landing if the business got taken away from you, right? So again, it's back to the conversation about cash flow. And this is where, for me, okay, you asked the question, what question do I need to be asking? I think, are you in tune with the market and the direction that it's going, right? And what does that mean to you? Are you geared towards investing? Do you feel comfortable with pushing your money into something that's going to earn a return? Or do you have any money to invest? Because then this gets into a conversation of control. How can you go and control the biggest piece of real estate for the smallest amount of money out of your pocket that's going to equate to the cash flows, right? You have the Airbnb arbitrage model in place right now. And I think it's a beautiful model. It's very millennial-esque, right? There's no ownership, yet you can still squeeze the dollars.
Yeah.
So that's one really solid play that I think a lot of real estate professionals should be looking at, because they have the know-how, they have the understanding, they have the conversational techniques to go in and have a conversation with the seller and say, hey, here's how we're going to run this. So I think that's one real easy play in that sense. And I mean, you could probably go lock up a couple of properties, for 10 grand that could equate to anywhere between $500 and $700 a month, right?
Yeah.
Through that arbitrage.
And I want to point out to you, I'm going to pause you real quick there too on the Airbnb thing. I think when the arbitrage, it's not too much different than, say, as agents, where we don't control the runway there. So it's great. Like, let's take the money from that we can, but what do we do with that money is really important. And just a plug, because of two of the guests we've had on here, you know, at least one of them, Leanne Harris.
Oh yeah.
She talked about how she's personally used Airbnb to grow her net worth, and how agents can use it to not only help their own net worth, but their clients. And then another guest that we had on, Justin Nelson, who specifically has worked on an Airbnb arbitrage model that he is starting to teach now. So I would go back, guys, and listen to the Leanne Harris and the Justin Nelson episode as well, because they both referenced their Airbnb. Leanne a little bit more than Justin, but you're going to get something out of both of them. So thanks for bringing that up, Joe. Like, that is absolutely, I think, something that we need to be asking ourselves as agents. Like, is there a path for me in that Airbnb world?
Right. Okay, cool. That was the nicest, softest shutdown of a direction I was going that I've ever had. So nice work. Have you done this before? Okay, so it's closings, it's control, or it's commodity, right? We're in the social media influence age. So how are you going to really stand out if you want to continue doing the real estate professional activities, right? How are you going to go up against, let's see, a character like, I'm just going to throw out like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Do you have the ability, if Gary Vaynerchuk said, I'm getting into real estate, I'm setting up shop in Phoenix, and I'm going directly against Kevin, and you had to go head to head to him, do you have the stroke when it comes to influence and social media wherewithal to go into a listing battle with a Gary Vaynerchuk, right? That's another area that I think we need to really be focusing on, because if you haven't yet established yourself as the go-to within your small sphere or your social media sphere, right? The 500 to 1500, different folks that are in that, then I think that's one area where you can be capitalizing so easily. It's a consistent daily plug, not a, hey, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, blah, 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 I'm doing an open house. Can we just stop talking about open houses and like door knocking? And like, I get it, it works, but man, if we're still so focused on that, right, we're going to miss the future.
Right.
That's sorry, that again, my own perception. Right. So, really looking at some of these avenues that are taking shape in the industry and overall in the world moving forward, how are you plugging into those changes, into the evolution? Are you at the forefront of the iBuyer conversation? Do you now have on some of your communication on your email, hey, did you know that we make offers cash sight unseen? Right? I mean, it's just lead generation, so it's really plugging into some of the changes that are taking place and being more at the forefront there. And so I get into commodity, saying you are now the product, because this to me is going to, right, it's this funnel, and right now we're at the top of the funnel, and like you mentioned, what's going to be the base, right? As it starts to whittle away, are we going to be $1 million? Are we going to be 500,000? Are we going to be 100,000 real estate professionals at the end of the day? So building yourself out as a commodity, as a product, so to speak, that is technology forward, that can speak to the sales avenues that are out there right now. I mean, you start getting into, some of the click funnels type stuff. Like, where are you developing your brand and your commodity that you've built up over the last 15 years that can carry you forward with cash flows for the future, right? And then it all goes back to, what are you doing day in and day out with those dollars that you're making to set you up for your future? How are you establishing that investment vehicle that can insulate, whether the industry goes away, the rug gets pulled out from under you or not? It ultimately doesn't really, I can't say not matter, but it's a softer landing, like you said.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. Talk to me now as if I'm the agent who, I've got a successful business. I'm realizing, you know what, I don't have a lot of money going towards my future, in case something happens here. But I have the ability to, like, maybe I've got $3,000 or $5,000 or even $10,000 a month, like really decent income where I can say, you know what, I'm going to earmark, I'm going to start lower. I got $3,000 a month right now today, that going forward, I could put every penny towards investment in my future. And it's not going to change my lifestyle one bit. What are the questions I should be asking if I'm that agent? Or what are the steps I should be taking or things I should be looking at if I'm that person who has comfortable income and about $3,000 a month discretionary income?
Okay. Are you the asset?
That's a great question. So is that the question that's what we need to be asking ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Right. I mean, it goes back to if something were to happen, heaven forbid, and you couldn't work in your business anymore, how are you going to maintain your family's income?
Got it. So let's presume the answer is yes.
So you're the asset.
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, you need to start with the end in mind and reverse build your way out of the business, quite frankly.
Okay. So that should actually be step one, is like, how do I make it so this income isn't even dependent upon me?
Yes.
Inside my primary business, which is in this case, real estate sales, or maybe I'm a mortgage professional.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Okay.
If the universe revolves around you, there's a big issue in place, and that's hard, right? Because like somebody like you specifically, Kevin, you're such a wealth of knowledge. Your ability is through the roof. Like, you're a special human. And how do you replace yourself as a special human? There have to be parameters in place that allow you to leverage your world. That if something were to happen, something were to come up, you cannot be the asset. It cannot rely on you. And that's where the investment vehicle comes into play, right? So that's one aspect. Go ahead.
Right. So, okay, but let me ask you this, because I know my answer to this, but I'm going to ask you this because I guarantee you there's a listener right now thinking the same thing. I spend my time at the top of the funnel. I'm the brand. Can I actually do that? Can I do both, or are those competing commitments?
Yeah.
I know my answer. What's your answer?
Okay. So it always ends up over with the single agent who is either like, I hate teams, teams are stupid, or I've done it before, it doesn't work for me, right? You have to find a way to make it work for you. So in regards to you are the brand, cool, continue playing the brand. Everything else has to be done though. Everything else has to get handled in the manner that you are setting up for consumers. So if you're completely trying to, go to the dark and disappear out of the business, that's one thing. But if we're talking about purely just setting up a leverage system, right, a business, then you can still play as the brand. I personally, our team is called the Alaska Real Estate Team. It's not the Joe Bell Show, because that's just the direction I felt was most comfortable for me. In the event I couldn't be the one day-to-day, face in, face out, because I wasn't interested in that role. I'm tired of meeting at dining room tables. Sorry, that's just me. Do I do it every now and again? Yeah, we've got great friends that want to sell their home, and I'm not going to hand them off to somebody where they aren't comfortable enough because I've already handled 4 or 5 transactions. Right? I'm just not in that place where I just don't care about the importance of that, because we aren't traveling every single day. I don't have to do it. At some point, I'm probably not going to meet with another consumer, right? And that's a good Cody Gibson segment, right, for his program. But yeah, ultimately, are you the asset, and what can you do with that $3,000 to help you no longer be the asset or move into a different role that is going to improve your life? Because ultimately, that's what you're after.
Yeah, it's
the lifestyle.
It's so funny. I'm talking to a good buddy of mine who, just a close friend, we mastermind all the time. He runs a massive business. He's, 300 units a year in a super small town type of business. And he's got a couple vehicles, but he got rid of the nicer, more expensive one yesterday. And I was like, dude, what did you get? He's like, nothing. I'm putting every single penny of that back into the business, because I'm like, he's like, I'm creating more leverage and creating more systems. And I was like, dude, yes, love you. Love that you had that realization. And I mean, this is a guy that's already crushing it. And now he's going, no, I'm going to make an investment back into the business, getting rid of this personal liability. And I was like, that's pretty damn cool. So, all right, dude, because we're starting to run short on time, like I have to hit you with one last question. That's okay. a couple different parts. So before I do that, do you have any sort of like burning desire topic you got to make sure we get out in this before I hit you with my multi-part last question?
Okay. Again, I've already somewhat mentioned it. We have earned stripes. We've spent time, effort, energy, tears, blood, sweat, the whole 9 yards. And for a lot of us that have been in more than 3 years and up to 25 years, I would hate for the lifestyle to be taken from under our feet. So it needs to happen right now. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how much money you have. You can find a way to do it, right? Through the arbitrage, you might need just a couple $1,000 bucks, to go and secure something that can generate $300 to $500 per month for you, right? If you have more to play with, cool, go find some sort of vehicle that's going to carry you through moving forward, maybe on the long term, if that's your play. Something has to happen. The discipline, I should say, the lack of discipline in our industry amongst our professional body is just sickening. We have to put some of that money aside to protect ourselves for the future. And I truly think that if you're the asset day in and day out right now, regardless of where you're at in your journey in this profession, you should be thinking on how to remove yourself, what that looks like, plan it, whether it's $3,000 a month, $10,000 a month. You need to have that in mind, because ultimately, I don't know too many folks that this is their end game in terms of this is what they had planned for their lifestyle. I'm going to go and meet with people at their dining room table till I'm 83. I don't know a lot of them. Sure, they're probably out there.
Yeah, most of them I think get there by default. Let's be honest.
All right. Yep. So
not by this choice.
So that's my point. Don't die at your desk. Start figuring out how to get unchained from the desk.
Cool. So my last question for you, Joe Bell, is tell me what are your top, and I steal this from Dave Asprey, that Bulletproof Coffee guy.
Oh, yes.
What are your top 3 pieces of advice for kicking more ass in life? And this could be business, personal life, whatever. Top 3 pieces of advice. Someone comes to you, says, I just want to kick more ass. What are those 3 things? Yeah,
totally. You've got to understand who you are and what speaks to you. For a long time, I thought I wanted to be something, another role. And through evolution in this industry, I've come to find what really makes me happy. And I want to be the superhero in my house. That's it. I want to be around. I want to be the superhero in my house. And my activities day in and day out focus around how do I spend more time with my kids? They're young, right? 6 and 8. So get real comfortable with who you are. Search the dark places. Okay. Second, you read any Grant Cardone book, right? And it's think further, but just don't get crazy. Right? You have to push your boundaries. Without pushing the boundaries, without understanding what is the universe level for you, right? If you're so focused down here, you'll play here. You have to push beyond those boundaries and go, what am I capable? What is the potential, right? So potential thinking would be my second piece. And then number 3 would be more physical and body alignment, allowing yourself in the morning to get up, have your mineral cocktail. I just talked to Brock Worthen about that. Have your mineral cocktail. I really enjoy some sort of mindset, something. Everybody has such a different, you want to go jump in a cold ice bath, go for it, right? But it has to be something. It has to be your ritual. It has to be yours only, so that you can, I think for me, it's really just having an understanding of who you are and what works in your world, and continue hacking all these parameters, all these chains that have been set on you through societal norms, to really carve out who you want to be, what you want life to look like, and what makes you happy.
Yeah. Love it, dude.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, Joe Bell. Joe, what's the best way, man? If someone wants to send you a referral in Alaska, they just want to contact you, they want to learn something more about you, how do people reach out to you, buddy?
My business is solely referral. So, probably one of the better places to catch me. We've got a Facebook group, Legacy Beyond Listings. So that's all investment driven. Go find Legacy Beyond Listings, on Facey Space there, and, jump in there. Otherwise, shoot me an email, joe@joebell.life, LIFE. And those are really the only 2 that I'm willing to give out.
Awesome, dude. I love it. Joe Bell. So joebell.life, by the way, I'm going to have to go spend some time just thinking about that.
Save it. I did.
Legacy Beyond Listings, guys, join the Facebook group, connect with Joe. He's a good dude. The guy's got his finger on the pulse of what is going on. And plus he's easy to give a hard time to and have a good time with. So Joe, thanks a lot for joining us today, dude. I appreciate it.
Dude, this was amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. You're awesome. Keep kicking ass, and we'll catch you here soon.